Hi. Okay, I'm here. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm super excited about some of the things that we're talking about today. So thanks for your questions. Thanks for joining me. I'm just going to pull this up really quick on my phone so I can see the questions from here. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about screen time. So I chose this topic because in the last week, I've had 2 moms tell me that the things that I've told them about sleep time has been super helpful helping their children sleep. Sorry, did I say sleep time? I meant screen time. So I just wanted to share that and put this out there in case there are any other parents struggling with sleep and may not understand why. It could be screen time related. So first off, there's a study that says for every hour that your toddler is watching TV, they are getting 15 minutes less sleep each night. So 15 minutes isn't a ton of time, but every 15 minutes counts when you're a toddler because toddlers are often fighting naps and waking up early and hard to put down for bed. And so those 15 minutes can really be the difference between good sleep and a happy child versus a child who's cranky and throwing tantrums and just hard to deal with. So those 15 minutes really are precious. And what's interesting about this study is it's not 15 minutes, it's not like an hour right before bed. It's like an hour anytime throughout the day. Anytime your child's watching, up to an hour of TV, they're losing 15 minutes of sleep later. So keep that in mind with how much screen time your kids are getting every day. I like to limit screen time for various reasons, including sleep, but also because I notice that when we do a lot of screen time, it kills any imagination, any motivation, anything that my kids would have had otherwise, and they end up being cranky and whiny and ornery, and I hate whiny. I don't like it, so I try to avoid that at all costs. So that's sorry, I'm thinking about things that I want to make sure I say. So I would say limit it in general, and then super, super important to move it to the middle of the day or something if you are going to watch or use any screen time. So those 1 to 2 hours before bedtime really should be reserved for no screen light, coming off the screen. It's going to keep your kids up. They're going to be harder to settle. And so that was the tip that I had 2 moms tell me was helpful for them, that they were watching TV or screen time or whatever to keep their kids to try and settle them down at the end of the night. And I get that because when your child's watching something, they're not moving around, they're not hyper or whatever, but it doesn't shut down their brain. It actually stimulates their brain. And so they end up sleeping, having a harder time falling asleep or sleep less, just all sorts of different things. So again, my recommendation is to move to the beginning of the day and then try and limit it. I know at my house we do, when my twins go to sleep and my 4-year-old doesn't sleep, he doesn't take naps, so that's when we do screen time. So the twins don't really get screen time. Sometimes they'll watch it when they get up if he's still watching. But what I do mostly with him is say, okay, it's time for quiet time, and he has to take quiet time, which I like to do for 30 minutes. He doesn't like quiet time. He has to sit in his room or read or just sit and kind of not bug me. That's the rule. He has to be quiet. And what he's been doing lately is telling me he's been choosing how long he does quiet time, and however long he does quiet time, he gets to earn some screen time. So the other day he chose 15 minutes. That's how long he did quiet time, and he got 15 minutes of screen time. And what's really great is I have one of those timers. Oh, I should have grabbed it for you. I just feel silly running away to get it. I'm gonna go grab it. Hold here because it's really cool. I'll show it to you. Okay, sorry, I'm back. So we have this timer. I don't know if you guys have seen these ones. but I let him do it, and it changes red. So like if he's gonna do it for 15 minutes, that's fine. So you can do quiet time for 15 minutes, and then when his quiet time is up, he gets screen time for 15 minutes. Again, we're only doing this in the middle of the day. Occasionally we'll have a movie night, sure, but overall, generally, like, let's not do screen time every single night, because it's not going to help our kids fall asleep. It's not actually going to settle them down. So a better alternative would be to go in and read books together in dim lighting. You know, they can still hold still. But if you don't have one of these timers, they're a little bit pricey, but well worth the money, like for a child to be able to see, and then to see it getting less and less, they can see where they're at. And I love these. I love these for quiet time. I love these for screen time. I love it. It was worth the money, every penny. So there's my screen time tip. It's nothing fancy, but it's just true. The blue light from screens is not going to help your child sleep. So there's that. Okay. I am going to jump down to my post and get some questions for today. So just a second. Okay, here it is. Okay, so we're going to start with Patrice. And Patrice has participated before, so it's good to have you back. She says, and I think, Patrice, you're twin mom, right? I'm pretty sure, maybe you say twins. Girls, yep, so you have twins. Okay, awesome. I was pretty sure you were twin moms, so I love me some twin moms. Okay, I'm dreading the time change with daylight savings. Hi, me too. I hate daylight savings. I hate all time changes. It's the worst ever. My 11-month-old girls sleep from 6:45 p.m. to 7 a.m. With a time adjustment, do you gradually adjust to the difference or put them to bed at 5 o'clock? Okay, this is a great question. And every mom's going to have to deal with it. So I have, I guess, like 2 announcements coming up. I do have a blog post about the time change. So whatever we talk about today will be covered in greater detail when I publish that. I'm also going to be on Good Things Utah October 27th, and we'll be talking about this specifically. So I'll just briefly share with you what I do to kind of prep you for that, and then look for the blog post and look for that segment on Good Things Utah, and you'll get some more details. So this is the fall time change, which means we're falling an hour back. So if, just like hypothetically, right, if we weren't following the clock, if we were going to bed when their bodies are used to going to bed, they would be going to bed at 5:45 p.m. and waking up at 6 a.m. Okay, part of me, I'm not gonna lie, like at this time in the fall, I see that and I'm like, hallelujah, I want my kids to go to bed at 5:45, right? Amen. And I'm like, am I gonna handle a 6 a.m. wake up? I don't know. I can do that if my kids are waking up. I can't get myself up at 6 a.m. So there's definitely a part of me, and I've done this in the past, where I've just not changed. I've not gone by the clock, and I've just kind of slowly adjusted after the time change and enjoyed like those early bedtimes for however long, a week or 2. So that's an option. I was also thinking about the time change today because my kids slept in today, like late. Like my early riser woke up at 7:40. The middle child woke up at 8, and then my oldest slept till 9. I guess he had a rough night last night. I don't know. My husband said so. I was out apparently. So there's a part of me that was like, oh great. Well, I don't want to correct this behavior. I just want to like kind of put them to bed a little late for their nap and a little late for bedtime, and kind of enjoy that, so that when the time change comes, it's not quite a huge adjustment. You do not need to do any of this or plan this far ahead. This is just like me thinking, because that's how I am. I'm always thinking about the time change. I'm always thinking about sleep, and right, I'm a little obsessive, which is why I do this. So really, Patrice, you have 2 options. You can do like the quick approach, or you can do the gradual approach. So let me kind of like tell you what that looks like. The quick approach, and it's easier for the fall change to do this, is to just go by the clock. So Sunday when the time changes, I like to start at night for this one. So you could start at nap time, really, I mean, if you wanted to. But essentially you're keeping them up an extra hour, which it's a lot easier to keep a child up an extra hour than it is to make them fall asleep an hour earlier, right? So if you were doing abruptly, you would just change, like maybe Saturday night, the night before, keep them up an extra hour. Chances are they won't sleep in an extra hour the next day. But if you can be consistent and follow the clock and put them down for their first nap at, following the clock, and their second nap, they should be on 2 naps still, their second nap following the clock, and then bedtime following the clock, they will adjust quickly. I mean, it will take a few days still, right, to get them sleeping into their normal time, but that is one option. Another option is to do it a little bit slower. So you could do put them to bed 30 minutes later, or even 15 minutes later, and then the next day for their first nap, you're continuing to put them to bed 15 minutes later, but it will now be 30 minutes later from their original time. Does that make sense? You're adding on 15 minutes for each nap until you're reaching that full hour. Again, they're going to miss some sleep because they're not going to be used to sleeping in, but they will adjust. And then the third option is to really slow it and do 15 minutes over 3 or 4 days. Sometimes if you do it really slow, they'll sleep in an extra few minutes because they need it. Sometimes they won't. It just depends on you and what your style is. What was I going to say? Oh, I would suggest doing that. If you choose to do the week-long approach, I would suggest doing it at the time change or after. You can try to do it before a little bit, but one of the big cues for babies and kids of when it's time to sleep is when we eat. Our schedules throughout the day, they use those all as cues to say, oh, now it's time to eat. We eat lunch and then we go take a nap. So if I eat lunch and then my kids are waiting around for 2 hours to go take a nap, that's going to be very confusing to them. So make sure that if you are adjusting slowly or quickly, that your activities throughout the day are also matching what they normally would. And then my favorite one, actually my favorite trick for the time change, is to just go take a trip. Go take a trip and just throw sleep schedules out the window, not completely, but kind of out the window. And then when you come home, just put them back following the clock, allow them to kind of what's what I'm looking for, catch up on the sleep that they lost over the trip. But then you come back and it's they're all disoriented anyways because they took naps at weird times while you were driving, or they went to bed late, so you can it's easier to adjust them back after a trip. That's my favorite one. I don't think we'll be taking a trip this time for this time change. I'm a little sad about it, but I will probably I really, really like that trick for the spring one because then it is, if you come home after a trip, often your kids can go to bed an hour early because they do need that extra sleep. So hopefully that helps. And again, look for me on Good Things Utah on October 27th, as well as a blog post that's coming out on this probably next week. So you'll get all the details. It'll explain everything more clearly than I do on here. So look for that. Okay, so let's go to Sarah Hall. She says, any tips you have for setting a day schedule fighting the 4-month sleep regression? The dreaded 4-month sleep regression, right, Sarah? Awful, awful, awful. It's interesting. Some babies really will just outgrow the sleep regression of the 4-month. They'll have it for I would say 2 weeks. If your child regresses, especially at 4 months, because that's such a big one, it's really hard for parents sometimes. So if your child regresses at the 4-month sleep regression, right, which we can kind of expect is pretty normal, but nothing kind of changes for 2 weeks, they're not going back to their regular long sleeping chunks, then I would say they probably need a little help getting there. It's probably not going to get better after that. So if you're suffering for 2 weeks or longer, you don't need to suffer anymore. Okay, and the only reason I say this is because I remember when I was suffering and I had well-intentioned parents telling me they'll grow out of it. It's just a growth spurt. It'll be fine. But after 2 months of them not sleeping better and me literally going crazy, that wasn't helpful anymore for me. So I totally get that some babies will outgrow it. Again, 2 weeks is a great time for a baby to kind of regulate and outgrow it if they're going to. So keep that in mind. The only way, so if they're not going to outgrow it, the only way I know how to help a 4-month-old, how to help them outgrow it, I guess, is to sleep train them. Meaning, your baby needs to learn how to fall asleep unassisted, without your help, without nursing, without binky, without swaddle, so that when they wake, because it's very normal for babies to wake a lot during the night, when they wake up, it doesn't scare them and they don't need all these extra things that they had when they were going to sleep. I mean, think about it. If you fell asleep in your bed, right? You fell asleep in your bed and you woke up on your front lawn, do you think you would be able to roll over and fall back asleep? No, you would be like, well, where the heck am I and how did I get here? And it would wake you up like that. Like that's what your child is experiencing. They're going to bed with you rocking them, and then they wake up and you're not there and it's scary for them. So they're waking up fully instead of rolling over and falling back asleep. Now, Sarah, I want to pull up, because I know that you sent me a message and it had a little bit more details. I think that's on my computer. So let me pull that up really quick and just make sure that I'm answering. Okay, fighting naps. Not sleeping well at night and fighting naps, which is all normal for the 4-month sleep regression. You said, I'm having issues with determining a normal schedule. Okay, so I'll talk about schedule. Okay, perfect. So the other thing with a 4-month is their schedule is pretty unpredictable. The one thing that should be predictable at this point is awake time. And oftentimes they need to be helped with that because their nights are so bad and their naps are so bad that the one thing we can do is wake them at a consistent time every day, sometime between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. And if they're generally waking in a certain window, obviously keep it within that window. So waking him up at I think it's a him, maybe it's not, but waking him up at the same time every day is the first thing that should be consistent. And then from there, the first nap should be consistent, right? So if he's waking up at 7, he might fall asleep at like 8:30, maybe 8. Just depending on stuff. And then the length of that first nap can vary a little bit. So sometimes it can be super consistent and sometimes it can vary. And then from there, it really just depends. We're still going off of wake times. So however long that nap is, and then he wakes up, you're kind of putting him back to bed like an hour and a half to 2 hours back to sleep again. And so it gets really inconsistent throughout the day. He should be taking about, and it is a him, she said, okay, so I'm using the right pronoun. He should be taking about 4 naps a day and then an early bedtime. So, did I answer everything? Now I'm wondering, and you go back and make sure that yeah, so again, there's no normal schedule. He's not sleeping well. He's not going to start sleeping well until he's sleep trained. So if you want more information on that, that's my favorite thing to do. That's my favorite package is my sleep plan package. And I love it because I pretty much get to walk your hand through the whole process. And yes, it's hard because there's information that I know that you can go find yourself. I mean, it's in books, and if you want to go do the research, you can go do that. But the biggest thing that I help parents with at that point is they have someone that they get to lean on and know that they're doing it correct. And that emotional support is worth, 5 times what you're actually paying me. So thanks for the question, Sarah. The 4-month sleep regression is awful. And just FYI, I talk so much, you guys, I'm sorry, but the 4-month sleep regression comes about because it's a perfectly healthy and normal. It means your child's developing as they should because they're transitioning from newborn sleep cycles to more adult-like sleep patterns. And so it's a good thing. It's just frustrating. Okay, so let's go to Chelsea. She has a 4-month-old too. Perfect. So hopefully some of that will help you too, Chelsea. But she says, how can I tell if my 4-month-old is waking in the middle of the night because he's actually hungry or he's just used to it? Okay, so my rule of thumb is to wait 15 minutes. So anytime a child wakes up, even if you're planning on feeding them, you can wait 15 minutes to see if they'll self-soothe back to sleep. Like if they don't actually need to eat, if they're not hungry, if they don't have a need, they might just be waking up and fussing for a little bit. And then within 15 minutes, they should be able to put themselves back to sleep if they really don't need anything. That's often how babies, oh, my timer that I highlighted is going off. Sorry. That's often how babies will drop a feed, is because they are in the habit of waking up for a feed. And if we rush in and feed, then they'll just continue to wake and continue to get that food. But if we can let them just, hey, let's just wait 15 minutes from the time you wake up and see if you'll rustle around and cry a little bit and fall back asleep. So that's one way to do that. He generally wakes up 2 times per night, once at around 1 to 3 and once at around 4 to 5. And then he gets up for the day around 7. Both times he wakes at night, food is the only thing that gets him back down. We tried rice cereal for the first time 3 nights ago. We did it before bed for 2 nights in a row, and both nights he only woke up once around 3 a.m. So this is so funny to me because I just wrote a blog post and was on Studio 5 talking about baby sleep and the lies moms tell themselves. I'm not saying that your rice cereal didn't work. I'm just saying that research says it doesn't work. So I love hearing these that are contradictory, right? Because they're out there. Like, this is how it gets started, and it might work for your baby, Chelsea. Maybe that's something you want to continue to keep him satisfied and through the night longer. And yet it doesn't work for every baby. And so we get in trouble when we're saying, just try this and this will fix the sleep, because the research tells us that cereal doesn't actually make a child sleep longer. So I love that you're contradicting my truth that I told. So that's what sometimes makes sleep hard, is it is like that. It is dependent upon the child, and people's experiences are very different than like what the research said, where you have like a whole group of people, and that's not what it showed. So anyways, just a funny thing. So anyways, last night we didn't give him cereal and he woke up twice again. Any ideas on how we can help him sleep through the night? Or could he just need more time? Yeah, so if the cereal's working, I mean, you can do it. Again, it's not my favorite thing to do, but that's just me speaking as a mom, as a sleep consultant. If it's working, then you can do it. I don't usually tell people to give cereal in order to make their child sleep longer, because there are other things that I think have a bigger impact on sleep. And the research also doesn't think that rice cereal has a big impact on it. Again, going back to what I already mentioned, and if you're joining late, Chelsea, go watch the other question about the 4-month-old, right? Is this his 4-month sleep regression? Is he sleep trained? Does he know how to put himself back to sleep when he wakes up? And then the 15 minutes that we talked about. But to answer the rest of your question, could he just need more time? In my experience, yes, he could just need more time. At 4 months, again, you want to go talk to your pediatrician to understand exactly what your child needs, and he'll be able to recommend and tell you, oh yeah, he can go all night, or he can go 7 hours, or he can go 4 hours, right? He's going to tell you how long he can go, so he knows your child specifically, and that's his job. I can tell you what I usually see, and what I usually see is that it's normal for a 4-month-old to wake twice a night to eat. I would not feed him more than twice a night, but twice a night is appropriate. And sometimes you'll see babies drop that second feed, between 5, 6 into the 7th month, and then drop that last feed anywhere from 6 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. 9 months is kind of my, okay, he physically can be sleeping through the night. But again, refer to your pediatrician for that. And then as long as he's sleep trained, then you can talk about, okay, he's sleep trained, my pediatrician says he can go this long, he's still waking, then what can I do? And then that would be a different approach. So check that out, and then if you have a question next week as a follow-up, I'd love to help with that. So another question, she says, if you don't mind, I don't. He has a hard time taking naps longer than 30 to 45 minutes, so I think he's having a hard time transitioning sleep cycles. Any ideas to help him nap longer? And you're right, he is. That's exactly what's going on with him. And so assuming he's completely unassisted, no swaddle, no binky, no nursing, no rocking, laying him down in his crib awake, and you're leaving the room, assuming that is happening and he's still taking short naps, the biggest thing that you can do to help him lengthen out his naps is to leave him in his dark room alone for an extra 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how early he woke up. So an idle nap, an idle nap is an hour or longer. And so if he slept for 30 minutes, I want to leave him in his room for an extra 30 minutes to say, hey, it's nap time. We're sleeping, and when we're sleeping, we're in our room. That is the quickest way to get a baby to lengthen out their naps. So again, if it's 15 minutes, then it's just 15 minutes leaving him in his room, and that can help him to lengthen those out. Again, assuming he's sleep trained at the beginning of the night. So okay, guys, thanks so much. That's all of our questions today. Again, look for my blog post about the time change. We'll get that out next week, and then we'll be talking about that on Good Things Utah on the 27th. So keep that in mind. And yeah, super excited. If you need more individualized help, you're welcome to sign up for my free 15-minute consultation, and we can discuss sleep plan options and what would work best for you in the phase that you're at, and kind of discuss pricing and payment plans and all of that. So I love what I do. I love helping you guys get sleep, and please share this with your friends, family, so that more moms can get sleep, and so we can be better moms to our kids. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.